Hello, welcome back to the Thrifty Suburbanite channel. Brought the log splitter in the garage the other day for an oil change. I got to looking around. This guard that I put over the top of the engine was loose and flopping around. And it's kind of a nuisance to try to start the engine with that on there. I wanted to figure out what I could do about solving that problem and maybe solving a problem on the other side where a similar issue was happening. We had a filter and a pump that's totally exposed to any loose log that may come down. I also realized I never really gave a follow-up evaluation of this machine. I've been using it now for 2 years. I gave some initial impressions in the video I was doing when I was splitting, but I never went over some of the stuff that I like and don't like about it. So I'll do that too. We'll be back in a minute. I can honestly say that I've been pretty pleased with the log splitter. Plenty of power. Gets through the big tough stuff. You can raise it vertically, get through the big rounds. You don't have to lift everything up. What I do is I'll take the big rounds and split them into quarters and then turn around and lay it flat again and put them up on the bed, if you want to call it that, wherever you split the logs there. The engine, it's fuel efficient. It's a clone of a Honda, and the jetting is way too lean. Thanks to the emission standards that we all have to comply with now, this thing sputters and coughs, and the first one ran so bad I had to bring it back, get a whole nother log splitter. They wouldn't just exchange the engine. But yeah, in the future, either I'm going to just transplant another Harbor Freight engine I have onto this, or get into the carburetor and fool around with the jetting, see if I can get it to run a little bit better. But it is fuel efficient. You will go a while on a gallon of gas. No complaints about the wedge. Ram speed is decent. Like I say, ram force is good enough. Gets you through wherever you're going. I use this side as the operator station. The control lever is here, and I stack the logs up on the little shelf right there to pull over. Haven't had to do a filter change in it yet. Probably at the end of the season I will. One of the things I'm displeased about with this is there's channels along the top of the I-beam that the splitter rides back and forth in. And what happens is in the channels, when you're splitting messy wood, which I usually do because it's standing dead, all the debris goes right into these channels. And the factory has made a couple holes here, so the debris will go through to the ground. But the holes aren't big enough. When you start getting pieces of bark in there like that, it just clogs it up. And then before you know it, when your ram gets near the end, it's struggling. Well, what it's doing is it's compressing all that garbage in there. And before you know it, you have to get a screwdriver out and you have to chip away at that. And you have to clear that out so you can use it. Minor inconvenience. I don't know what the answer is to that, because I think if you make any holes that are bigger in there, you're going to compromise the strength of that I-beam underneath. What I have to say is the biggest complaint about this machine is that the engine is exposed to anything that's going to fall off the top of that splitter. I don't know about the rest of you guys. When I get splitting wood, it's like we're in a rodeo, baby. I'm getting that stuff done. I'm not fooling around with it. And a lot of times the logs fly here and there. And I know it's just a matter of time before something's going to come off the edge of this grid here. Boom, right on top of that engine. A lot of plastic parts there. Gas cap is plastic. Air cleaner is plastic. There's a shield on the muffler. I know it's going to get busted up. My neighbor has one similar to this, and his engine's all cracked. I helped them replace some parts on it already. So one of the tasks I'm going to look into now is to make some kind of a shield over top of that engine. Look through my scrap pile, see what it is I have. Maybe I can put something together to shield that. Keep my worries at bay about busting the top of that engine up. Also on the other side, there's an oil filter that's pretty much exposed also. I don't worry too much about this side because, like I said, I treat this as the operator station. I stand here all the time, and I have a lot better control over what comes over this side of the splitter than I do the other side. But eventually I will put something there also. I can see a log coming right down on the top of that filter and breaking that. And the pump is right there exposed also. Let's go out to the scrap pile and see what we can come up with. Maybe I'll have something that'll fit right on here and it'll shield this engine. Right, so here's a very rough mock-up of something I came up with in an effort to try to protect the engine. That is a display rack that I'd gotten out of the trash at one point. It just sat in my scrap metal pile like we all have. Around the edge there's 1-inch square tubing. What I did was I tied it into the I-beam of the splitter in the front. You'll see there's a bolt right there. What that originally was it's like a little thermos thing they give you the paperwork for the splitter in. Virtually worthless. They say you can put tools in there, but it's so small you can't do anything with it. In the back I just cobbled together something to tie it down to the axle where the hydraulic fluid is stored. There's 2 tabs there where presumably a fender would mount. Forgive the amateur bolt job here. When this looks right and I like the idea, I'll weld something together, make it look nice. This is just thrown together. Alright, we had our new guard out on the job the other day and it worked pretty well. I think now it's time to do some work. What we have here is another piece of this 1x1. I have to cut this row of round stock out. We're going to weld this in here like so. Hopefully that'll give us more support side to side. There's our piece of tubing in the top. All the wire rack has been tacked back onto that. It's pretty sturdy. So, this is only meant to support a load temporarily. I'm not going to use this for any type of log storage or anything. The one last step I have to do is I have to find another piece of inch square for this corner up here. I'm going to make a support that goes down from here. That'll be another day. I've had it a couple years now. I never really did an intro video on it, but it's been in just about every video I make of firewood processing because it's my primary log splitter. I went from using a maul to the neighbor's ancient log splitter, and then I finally picked this up. It's just by fate. I drove into the Tractor Supply driveway when they were having a massive sale. $9.99 I paid for it. Now they're $15.95. So I got a good deal. Had it a couple years. No breakdowns, no maintenance issues to speak of. Good machine. Some things I like about it, it splits everything I throw at it. I've never had it jam up. It is pretty fast compared to that old splitter I was using, but it's alright. For what I paid for it, I'm not going to complain. Now, on to the negatives. Where the wedge rides in this track up underneath here, debris always gets in there. It just jammed on me the other day. It wouldn't go forward anymore, and I didn't understand what was happening at first. What happened was a couple pieces of wood got up underneath here and wedged this. The further I pushed the ram forward, the tighter the wedge was becoming, and it eventually stopped it. I had to reverse it, and that's when I saw what happened. So this is not the best design. It's loose, wobbles around quite a bit. And at the end, there's a similar problem where debris gets caught in these rails here. These little holes they give you at the end, which are probably structurally about all they could do, they get clogged up with debris. And even at the end here, there's some stuff jammed in there still. Something else that's not particular to this machine, but it's a design flaw or design overlook or whatever you want to call it that I'm not really happy with. Standard, the engine sits out there in the breeze. Anything that comes off of the top of that splitter can go down there and hit the motor. On the top, the plastics get bent, the gas tank, whatever. I do have the accessory log shelf or whatever they call it, I forget what it is they call it, on the side here, but that's not going to prevent everything from tipping over forward. It has happened. I put this piece of metal shelving on here to keep it from happening, just to see if it would be effective or not, and it is. So today one of the things I'm going to do with this is refine this guard a little bit. I'm going to cut it back. It's too big. Makes it difficult to get into the engine and turn the gas on, turn the choke on and pull start it. And gas refill you just have to do through the spaces in the shelving. But that's okay, I can do that. I have a long funnel. But this is just too long. It goes on forever. Covers more than the engine. It's in the way. Hits my knee. And it's not very sturdy the way it is now. I had it fixed to a couple different things on here and I just haven't figured out where I want to mount it. Overall, I would say I'm not really displeased with it. A couple little design things, probably just cost saving features is why they were blowing them out. Actually, I still have them on the lot, so I shouldn't say that. Yeah, I got to work on this guard on the side a little bit. It's a 2023 update. Cut this down. I brought it back on an angle a little bit, so in case we're going through the woods and I forget that this is a little wider than the tractor, maybe if I had something there, it'll shed it a little bit. It'll run down there and run off a little bit instead of taking my motor and wheel and everything else with it. Yeah, that's on, painted up. I have one more piece here to paint. What I'm working on today is a guard for the other side. I have a hydraulic pump and a filter here and those lines. So I decided the piece of shelving that I cut out from the other side might be something I could put in there to cover them. Yeah, I got it all whittled down to size and I made this piece of 1-inch flat stock to go around it and serve sort of as a frame. I have to weld it. Alright, here's the finished product on this side. Like I said, it's a piece of the other side that I cut off because it was too long. Made a support across the back. I drilled a hole through the back here, and the trailer connection that supports the ram is the bolt. You see the shiny bolt right there in the center of the screen. I made that come all the way through, and that holds this side of the shelf up. And in the front, I drilled and tapped a 5/16 inch hole, put a bolt up there. This side is now covering the oil filter and the oil pump. Yeah, this should help out quite a bit. So I hope. We'll see how it works. I think this is an improvement. I'm going to run with it. I'm going to use it a few times, talk about it when I get a chance. My opinion of this machine has not changed. I still like it. I still think it was well worth the money I spent on it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Signing off.